If you've seen the movie The Ghost in the Darkness, you get the basic idea. Two lions, absolute jerks, terrorize a railway construction site in Kenya until Val Kilmer pitches up to be their huckleberry. Not cutting it on his own, he enlists the help of big game hunter Michael Douglas, who has a basic instinct that when it comes to the concept of lions eating humans, greed is not good. Together they see off their feline foe and dispatch the carnivorous kitties. Hurrah, fantastic, and everybody back home for tea and medals. Apart from Michael Douglas, for whom the lions had a seriously fatal attraction. Okay, let's set the scene. It's Tsavo, British East Africa, 1898. Lieutenant Colonel J.H. Patterson arrives to work on the construction of the Uganda Railway. This place is seriously inhospitable to humans. Dense undergrowth, thorn trees, plenty of places for lions to hide, stalk, and attack. The humans, well, there are hundreds of them, thousands even, mostly labourers brought in from India to a territory they're entirely unfamiliar with. They're spread out over multiple camps over a wide area of more than 8 square miles. From a hungry lion's perspective, it's really a question of where shall we dine tonight, dear? Now, shortly after the railway reached Tsavo, workers began to disappear, mysteriously. At first, Patterson suspected foul play, but it soon became clear that the workers were being attacked by lions. The first confirmed attack occurred in March 1898 when a worker named Ungan Singh was carried off by a lion while he slept in a tent shared by a dozen other workers. As Patterson himself described the incident in a 1902 article in the Wide World magazine. At midnight, the lion put his head in the open tent door, and as Ungan Singh was nearest, seized him by the throat. The unfortunate fellow cried out, "Chora!" let go, and threw his arms up around the lion's neck. The next moment he was gone, and his terror-stricken companions described the terrible struggle they heard outside. Poor Ungan Singh must have died hard, but what chance had he? As was gravely remarked, was he not fighting with a lion? Patterson spent that night up a tree with his rifle, lying in wait in case the lions returned. Of course, the poor workers had no such elevation or weaponry at their disposal. In the pitch darkness, the sound of lions roaring confirmed that there was more than one. But lions hunt in silence, and after the roaring ceased, screams came from another distant camp. Thus began a reign of terror that would last for several weeks and cost, by some accounts, over 100 lives. Patterson soon realized that the lions were attacking different camps every night, making it difficult to track them down. Perhaps in the early days they would have had more victims, but for the fact that the lions were basically noobs to the whole human hunting thing and would get completely freaked out if anything went wrong with their attacks. A loud noise or an unexpected encounter would send them darting back into the bush. But they soon leveled up. The lions were able to move quickly and silently through the dense terrain, and they gained experience. They seemed to make a close and intelligent study of the habits of each camp before they attacked it. Patterson's attempt to hunt them by day were largely futile, as the lions were able to stalk their prey in absolute silence, and most of their attacks were at night. His efforts to stop the lions were further complicated by the fact that the area was so wide, making it next to impossible to protect all the workers. Misery loves company, and so does fear. Consequently, Patterson sought the company of Dr. Brock, the railway's medical officer. At night, they huddled together in a rickety shelter fortified by thorn fences, a makeshift sanctuary against the relentless onslaught of death-hungry lions. For the sake of coolness, Brock and I used to sit under the veranda of the hut. After the advent of the lions, it was rather trying on one's nerve to sit reading or writing there after dark, as we never knew but that a lion might spring over the boma at any moment and be on us before we were aware. We kept our rifles therefore within easy reach, and many an anxious glance was cast out into the circle of blackness beyond the firelight. On one or two occasions the lions came near and tried to get in at us, but they never succeeded in doing so. Their unfortunate workers resorted to such tactics as lashing their beds to the branches of trees or digging pits in their tents, crawling in and pulling railway sleepers over the top to protect themselves. Despite the attempts at fortification, The carnivorous duo persisted in their nocturnal raids, turning the camp into their personal buffet. But these lions weren't content with mere snacks. They had grander designs. They made an audacious foray into the Railhead Hospital camp, where they nearly snatched the hospital assistant. It was a display of bravado matched only by their insatiable hunger. Dodging bullets and thorns alike, they stormed through the darkness with the finesse of seasoned raiders, leaving behind a trail of panic and chaos. Undeterred, Patterson and his cohorts scrambled to relocate the hospital closer to the workers' camp, hoping to outsmart the cunning predators. Patterson had been told that the lions would likely return to the empty hospital camp. That night, as he was standing lonely vigil, screams in the night confirmed that he had been outsmarted, as the lions enjoyed their first meal at their new eatery, the relocated hospital. Each shriek and cry in the night served as a grim reminder of the predator's tenacity and cunning, leaving Patterson and his comrades teetering on the edge of despair in the face of one of nature's most ruthless adversaries. They tried everything, with everything basically being multiple variations of the same plan, lying in wait somewhere concealed from view, hoping that the lions would take the bait usually being cattle, notwithstanding the fact that the lions had pretty much confirmed that their preference was for the human and not the bovine items on the menu. In desperation, Patterson and Brock devised a makeshift lion trap. The trap was made entirely of tram rails, pieces of telegraph wire, and a bit of chain. It had 2 compartments, one for the men and the other for the lion. A sliding door at one end admitted the men, and once inside they were perfectly safe, as between them and the lion, if he entered, ran a cross wall of iron rails only 3 inches apart, firmly embedded in the sleepers. The door that admitted the lion was at the opposite end. This trap was designed based on the principles of a rat trap, allowing the lion to trigger a concealed spring that would release the wire and close the door behind him. Eerily, it was just after the trap was built that the lions decided it was time to AFK from the human hunting game for a while. A few months went by with no attacks. Then, one night, they announced their return. Patterson. We were suddenly startled out of this feeling of security by hearing one dark night the old terror-stricken screams and cries, and we knew at once that the lions had returned and had added another unfortunate to their long list of victims. This time they had seized a poor man and eaten him within 30 yards of his tent, and so daring had they become that they did not attempt to move until the ghastly meal was finished, although several shots were fired at random in their direction. The lions even changed their tactics. One had always kept watch while the other hunted. Now they would both Leroy Jenkins it and just rush in and take what they wanted. It was the final straw. The workers had had enough. Hundreds simply fled. Work on the railway practically ground to a halt. Eventually, Mr. Farquhar, the superintendent of police, and a score of native soldiers arrived from the coast to help in hunting down the lions. The trap was rearmed and baited by means of 3 incredibly nervous soldiers. That very evening, the trap worked perfectly. The lions were caught, and the nightmare was all over. Nope. Sorry. That's what should have happened. What actually happened was the following. In the evening, around 9 p.m., the trapdoor finally clattered down, signaling the lions' capture. Finally, they had one of the bastards. But, despite being armed and instructed to shoot, the soldiers completely lost it when the lion rushed into the trap. Their reckless shooting resulted in a door bar being accidentally dislodged, allowing the lion to escape. Here's Patterson's account of the lost opportunity. However, they were so terrified when he actually did rush in and began to dash himself madly against the bar of the cross wall that they quite lost their heads and were too unnerved to fire. It was not for some minutes until Mr. Farquhar, who was close by, had called out to them and cheered them on, that they recovered themselves. Then they began to shoot with a vengeance. Everywhere. Anyhow, we were at right angles to the direction in which they should have fired, yet bullets whizzed all around us. They fired over a score of shots, and in the end, with one unlucky shot, they blew away one of the door bars and let the lion escape. How they failed to kill him is a mystery, as they could have put the muzzles of their rifles right onto his body. So, as we reach the end of part 1, the score is lions 100 plus kills to humans, slight shield damage to 1 lion. What's next for the man-eaters of Tsavo? Will the humans turn the table on these cunning carnivores, or will the lions continue to reign supreme? Please be sure to subscribe to the channel and to hit the bell icon to be notified of the next installment.